everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you tuned in. This is episode 9 of the Curly Stitcher. My name is Jennifer and I am a multi-craftivist person here in kind of the north central Texas area, north of Dallas Fort Worth. I'm so glad you guys could join me today. I am recording this on Memorial Day, which is a major holiday here in the United States. So happy Memorial Day to everybody who celebrates. Today, since it is the last day of the month of May, this is going to be a wrap-up episode of all of my Stitch Mayhem things that I've worked on for the past month. The last time I did a cross stitch episode, which would have been episode 7, was at the end of April, going over what I worked on for the month of April, but then I also did a separate bonus episode of my plans for May. So here we are. If this is your first time watching, welcome. For anybody who's come back, welcome back. Just to give you a brief overview, typically because I do a lot of different kinds of crafty things, my two primaries being cross stitch or embroidery, needle arts, versus the more yarny fiber arts like knitting and crochet, I usually do every other episode. So this is a cross stitch episode, along with some other sewing related items, and then in a couple of weeks I will have another knitting episode. So I'm glad you're here. Stick around. I hope you have something to drink. This may be a long one, but in addition, I hope you enjoy checking out everything that I've worked on for the month of May. So I will start by saying my Mayhem plans, Stitch Mayhem plans, were to work on exclusively Owl Forest embroidery pieces, and I kind of did a montage at the beginning of the video showing you the patterns that I chose to work on. My intent was to work on a pattern a week, and since there were 4 weeks, I actually had 2 smaller patterns that I'll get to here in a minute, one of which was small enough that I got an FFO out of it, and so those 2 patterns comprised a week, and then each of the other 3 weeks were dedicated to a certain pattern, and I didn't set a number of stitches or a number of hours or anything like that. I just worked on it as much as I wanted to, or as much as I could, so tried to get as far as I could with each of those patterns. So let's start with, I'm actually going to go in order of the projects that I worked on, and in the order in which I worked on them for the month of May. So we're actually going to start at week 1, which was the right before May started. Owl Forest Embroidery had announced and released the first of their summer sal this year, which is Alice in Wonderland themed, and I had, by week 1, had pattern 1, it had been released, and I think at the end of that week they were releasing pattern 2. So basically I have now like 2 or 3 parts that I have to catch up on, but for week 1 I did finish pattern, or part 1 of the sal, and this is a sal that's released every 2 weeks for, I think it's going to be almost a year, but it's going to be a really cute project, and I'm going to try to tell you as much information as I can. I'm not going to remember everything, so I apologize in advance as far as fabrics and those kinds of things. I have a lot of things written down, so I'm hoping that I can try to take a look back at my notes. I try to keep a journal of all the things that I work on. So I will try my best. So this is part 1 of the Alforst embroidery stitch along for the Alice in Wonderland. So this is my little Mad Hatter. I made this needle minder, and then this is a Cheshire Cat needle minder from Rebel Stitches. Like I said, this is only part 1. There's part 2 that's got some stuff at the top of the bottom, and then part 3 I think is up here, and it's got like the white rabbit. I mean, I'm really, really far behind. So if you follow along like on Instagram, you're gonna see things that have gone further and further along in this stitch, but I absolutely loved. And this took me about that first full week to get this finished. So what I chose to do was let me see if I can find a little bit about this for you. So the fabric is actually an even weave. I think it's a 28 count. That was straight out of the box. It was something that I bought like at Michael's, like in the tub or in the tube. So it's the whole piece. I just put it on the scroll frame. Yeah, it's a 28 even weave Lugana tea-dyed. And like I said, it's just the Charles Craft DMC stuff that you buy right from the box store. My original plan was to like dye it, and never got around to it. And it was kind of a nice neutral color for this, and it was kind of a good easy stitch, especially for kind of one of my first attempts at linen / even weave. I kind of wanted to see what that was like, so I thought a 28 count was kind of safe. And instead of using, Alforst was selling kits of their variegated floss for this, but instead what I opted to do was I actually did a color conversion using Forbidden Fiber flosses. So these are all the colors that I am using, and I tried to get as close as I could to the floss colors that were in the picture that Alforst released ahead of the first part 1 release, and I think I came pretty close for the most part. And I will say the one part that I was so the green is like the trellis, you know, in the Queen of Hearts garden. But this little fence or gate or whatever, I was really not sure about this bright green. But in all of the other stitches I've seen online, that actually came out really close to what it was supposed to look like. So I'm really happy, because I was really, really worried about that bright green, that maybe it wasn't supposed to be that bright, but it turned out really well. Anyway, so I was really happy with that. Okay, so week 2 was my small pattern week. And as I mentioned before, I actually got an FFO from one of the 2 patterns that I started and completed before that week was up. So this pattern was one of the free charts on Alforst Embroidery's website called Sparrows. And this is just a little, this is actually an ornament cut that if you order from Fire Poppies at all, they do mixed like grab bags of like Aida, and then grab bags of ornament cuts of like linen and even weave. And the first one I ever purchased from them was an Aida, and it came with like 6 little ornament cuts. So I'm going to kind of bring this in close a little bit if I can get it to focus for you here. There we go. So this was using the DMC conversion that Alforst recommended, and this is a 14 count vintage country mocha, like I said, ornament cut from Fire Poppies. So this, surprisingly, what ended up happening was, as you can kind of see, I came really, really close. There was not much of that ornament cut left when I was done with this. And I was really worried about the finish, like what I was going to do with it. And so for a while, I thought I would just put it in my journal. I really didn't know what to do with it. And then I was watching, if you're familiar with Helen D here on YouTube, she does a lot of little really cute pillow finishes. And this particular one that she had done was for, I think, an Easter bunny that she actually did a tutorial for. And so I thought, okay, well, let me try that. So I found some really pretty green and blue fabrics. So that's actually the back. It's just those same two fabric pieces. And just kind of followed her little instructions. And that's what I ended up doing. The only thing is, so this was my first pillow finish ever. And if you're familiar with how pillow finishes typically work, is you sew the pillow inside out, all the way around except for leaving about an inch and a half on one side. Then you turn it right side out, stuff it, and then you sew that one little bit shut. Now, there are a lot of tutorials out there where what they do is they do like an actual, like, they cut the backing fabric and then turn it inside out there and then just cover that up with a piece of scrap fabric or something like that. I opted for the side finish over here, and it's fine, like sitting like this, like you can't really tell, but my Franken stitches are horrible. So later on in this episode, I'm going to show you, I actually did some other non-Owl Forest embroidery pieces that I finished. One of which was another pillow finish, but I'm going to show you what I opted to do instead, because I did go to, I think, Joann's and look at some of the trims. I bought a few trims, thinking about trimming this pillow to hide that. But I just like this pillow, like this. I didn't, and I was worried too because these edges were so close on the stitching. I didn't want trim to cover any of that up. So I left it like that. As you can see, now I'm fooling with it because I'm being self-conscious about that side of the pillow. But I absolutely love this. I'm happy with my color choices on the fabric. I'm happy. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. It's really, really cute. Stuffed the bejesus out of it. So yeah, so I definitely learned to like a pillow finish, which I didn't think I would, because you see a ton of people who, they make all these small pillows and then put them like in a tray, seasonal tray in their house or whatever, and I'm not that person. But this actually turned out really cute, so I see why people like doing these. And as I said, I did another one later on where I kind of figured out how to not have to deal with that, which I was so happy about. So I see a lot more pillow finishes in my future, perhaps, using the other method that I did for my other pillow. So anyway, so back to, this is most of week 2 of May, Owl Forest Mayhem. And since I had a few days left, I went back and started the other kind of smaller project that's also a free chart on their website, which is called Autumn Cats. And I'll put a picture up here of what the pattern looks like, and then I will show you how far I got on mine. So as you can see, I didn't get that far, but you can just make out the big cat's ear and eyes, face right here. But I did all the little cats and autumn kind of motifs around on this one side. And yeah, I really had a lot of fun with this. So I still have the label on this. This is an 14 count Aida. It's a Zweigart called Misty Blue. And this is probably only about, the top kind of corner third of it. And I think I bought this just from somebody that was selling a lot of different colored Aida on like Etsy or somewhere. I don't remember where I got it. But yeah, so I love stitching these little kitties. You can kind of see the little, the little back stitched whiskers on him. So I was really, really happy with that. So yeah, and I love this color. If you noticed in the picture, the background was a little bit darker than this, but not terribly, I mean, I thought that this was a good color, similar color match to that. So I was really, really happy with that. So that ended week 2. Oh, and I'm using, again, because it was the free pattern, I just downloaded it off of their website. I'm using the DMC conversion on this one as well. So, so yeah, that was end of week 2. Okay, so week 3, I had 2 patterns left to choose from, and I kind of waffled back and forth about it. But ultimately, what I ended up deciding to do was working on the 100 Owls pattern, and I'll put it up here to show you what the full finished piece looks like. So this was truly the first pattern that got me into the world of Owl Forest embroidery. I found this pattern online. So apparently this was last year's Stitch Along. And I found this pattern online because I was watching other YouTubers talk about this free pattern, that they had. And I remember I was actually on vacation at the time, and I was trying really hard to download it because I was afraid it wasn't going to be free forever. But I just absolutely loved it. So, for my pattern, what I ended up doing was, I got another, it's just a Zweigart. This is actually a 14 count called Pewter. Again, downloaded the pattern and used the DMC embroidery floss conversion. And because I knew the piece of fabric I have is going to just fit, just be big enough for the entire pattern, because it's 14 count. I mean, it's going to take up a lot of room, but this is just going to fit with the margins. I had to do a center start. So because this was a stitch along, they released a section of owls at a time, and they actually released, the first one they released, one was the first owl, big great horned owl by itself. Well, it's just above the center, and I wanted to do a center start to make sure I got this on the fabric right. So I actually ended up starting with, this is like 30 through 40 something. I mean, this is like, but the center is like right here in this little piece at the top. So I actually spent week 3 stitching all of these, and then coming back up, and this is owl number 1. So I got not all of them done. I got all the outside, the wreath, done, and all the greenery around him, but I've still got to go back and finish filling him in. And you can kind of see there's a little kind of white, or ecru, I think, stripe, down his wing. But yeah, this is not that big of a piece, but this will fit. I mean, I did the count and the recount and the recount, and yeah, these are 2 of the bigger motifs. And basically, so it goes 1, and then 2 and 3 are right above him, and I counted, and like they're gonna stop like an inch. Like, I am gonna be so close to the selvage on this piece of fabric, but it's gonna fit. It will fit. So anyway, so I'm really, really happy, and this was a lot of fun. It was actually kind of nice not starting with number 1, because obviously this is so daunting, having to try to finish one whole motif, that finishing like, however many this says, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 owls out of 100 is actually kind of nice, because you felt like you accomplished something. So anyway, so yeah, so that was week 3. And the owls were a whole lot of fun. And like I said, this was the pattern that got me going on them to begin with. So I was really, really, really happy to get started on that. And I will definitely continue to pick that up as time goes on. So yeah, I was super super excited to get a start on that. So my final week 4 was, if you watched my bonus intro episode, I actually had bought a kit back right at the end of 2020, and it came, or in December of 2020, and it came right at the beginning of January, or right around New Year's, and this was my 4th week start. So I'm actually, this isn't the greatest picture in the world, so I'm actually going to put a better picture up here. The translation, so if you can tell, everything's in Russian on their stuff. The translation of the pattern is Evenings on a Farm in Dikanka, I think. That's the best you're going to get out of me, being a girl from Texas that, you know, doesn't know how to doesn't know what she's reading, or, you know, the best way to pronounce things. So so on this little motif, again, so because I bought the kit, I got the fabric, I got the flosses, I got a needle minder, and I got this great big huge pattern with all the motifs and stuff on it. Hopefully you didn't get so much there that I'm going to be in trouble for it. But because this piece of fabric, I think, was meant to basically do the entire piece, I mean, and have enough for just enough for framing, I went with the center start again, just to make sure. So I only got 2 motifs done, but those are the 2 I got done. It was like a little, you know, just a little like Quaker kind of square, and then this little, this little person spirit. I'm not entirely sure. And if you kind of can tell, their floss is very, very variegated. You can really kind of tell in the pants there. So that pants floss is a blue, but it's got purple in it. It is one color, but it is that variegated. Same with the jacket. The jacket is just a brown color. The bag was the one that got me, because that is also just one color. And I realize everybody's is going to stitch up different, but that's how variegated it is. It's orange and green and brown. So I wish that had stitched up a little bit better, and I thought, well, if I get to the very end and I still have a bunch left, I may go back and pull some of that out and start over. But the rest of it, the variegation looks great. The boots, there's actually 3 different flosses. There's the green that's got a little bit of blue in it, then there's the brown in the center, and then there's more of kind of a goldy, greenish gold around the edges. And I absolutely love those, just not, yeah, for some reason that stitching up that bag probably should have looked a little bit different, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. I'm hoping what I've got, I mean, I assume they give you enough floss to do everything you need to do, but yeah, I would have liked that bag to turn out just a little more variegated than that. But other than that, I'm really happy with it. So this was this past week. And that's as far as I got. And part of that is because I don't know what this is. I mean, it's like a linen or an even weave or something. But I don't know what the count is. But in addition to that, it is really, 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 really dark fabric. So what I ended up having to do was either hold a piece of paper, well lit, you know, white piece of paper underneath it, or put my iPad underneath it with just a white screen or something, just so I could see the threads in the fabric. Absolutely love it. I'm going to keep stitching on it, but it is going to take me a really, really long time. And they also came with this little needle minder that's got like the little, there's somewhere on the pattern here, these two little snowy houses, and that's what's on the needle minder that the kit comes with. So yeah, so this is one of those deals that I'm just going to have to remind myself that every time I pick it up, I'm not going to get as far as I would like in an hour of stitching, but it'll be worth it. It'll be really, really pretty when it's done. That's kind of why I picked this pattern. Okay, so that was the gist of my Owl Forest May. However, I gave myself a lot of latitude this year. This is the first time I ever participated in the Mania, Mayhem, type thing. This is the first kind of, I haven't been cross-stitching that long or being that involved in this whole, community. So that was my first May. But I gave myself a lot of latitude because I knew things would come up. I knew there were things I'd want to stitch. I knew there'd be stitch-alongs or something that I might want to start. As a matter of fact, there were a couple of things that I told myself at the time that either I had to make a decision that, hey, I'm going to do that anyway, or hey, I'm going to put that off till until May's over. And I kind of did, honestly, a little bit of both. But there were things that came up during the month, like, hey, let's do this, or hey, let's start this. And I was like, yes, please. So I'm going to show you some of the other things that I actually ended up doing for the month of May, just because they were other projects, other events, other stitch-alongs that either got started or I started and finished, or things I wanted to work on. Just as and another part of that too was I kind of had to remind myself that if I got so focused or so disciplined about the Owl Forest, I might have kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about May, and I didn't want to do that either. So I just kind of gave myself the latitude or the leeway to say, hey, if you want to take a break from that and you want to stitch something else, or hey, this one day they're doing some kind of starting a stitch along, do it. So, so let me start with Michelle of Bendy Stitches. She was trying to finish her Halloween Quaker by Leela's Studio, and had started a Zoom meeting a couple of times a month to help her basically finish her Halloween Quaker. Well, she finished it, and that was about the end of April. So May opened up, and she realized she wanted to keep going, wanted to keep stitching with the folks that were stitching Halloween Quaker, but realized she was done, so she had to kind of move on to something else. Well, about that same time, she and Abby with Top Knot Stitcher started the Bushland Quaker Sal, which involved involves what is going to be the entire series of the Bushland Quakers by Mojo Stitches. However, there's only 2 out so far, and the one that Michelle and Abby started was actually number 2 because it was an expo an expo release this year, and Abby had it in her shop, and as a matter of fact I think that's where I got my copy of it. So it's called Take Wing, and I can actually show you the picture of it. This is it. So when Michelle decided that she was going to continue what was her Halloween Quaker Zoom meeting, she realized she had to find another Quaker style pattern to work on. So this is what she chose, because she and Abby had started the Bushland Quaker Sal. Well, it just so happened I had it too. And at that point, Michelle opened the Zoom up to anyone who was working a Quaker style pattern. And it just so happened I had the one, and I wanted to start the one that she and Abby were stitching. So, and if you aren't familiar, Mojo Stitches is out of Australia. The first one in the series, the Bushland Quaker #1, is all different flowers, basically. There are a couple of birds in it too, but mostly flowers from Australia. So this one is all birds from Australia. And if you go to her blog, Mojo Stitches, you can Google it, you can find it online. She walks you through the different birds in each of the motifs. So I did a top left start. So this is, and about the same time that they were starting the stitch along, the Bushland Quaker stitch along. I got my, I think it's my April fabric from Fortnite Fabrics. And I do the dynamic duos, I think is the theme. But this is what I got. I got a 16 count Ada. This is Thelma and Louise. So I had just gotten this fabric, and it's a very pale, it's going to look like pale white. It's going to wash out. But it's really, really pale, but it's got a little bit of pink and a little bit of blue in it. And this pattern's going to take up probably this half of it. So there's my start. So this is a superb fairy wren. And then some of the flowers and stuff she mentions on her blog too, what they are. So there's some flowers around this. There's going to be an emu right here. I'm about halfway through this motif right here. So this is two Quaker Zoom meetings with Michelle, and as a matter of fact, this last one, Abby was there, and probably 20-30 other people. And she tries to do them a couple of times a month, spaced out different times, just to give people either living in Europe or people living in Australia the opportunity to sit in, because not everybody's awake at the same time on this planet, obviously. And I am, for the record, using the DMC conversion, the suggestions. I think she used like Gentle Arts or Weeks. No, I don't think Weeks is right. She uses Gentle Arts. Oh, okay, Gentle Arts. No, that's right. She uses Cottage Garden Threads, which is actually another Australian company. But she gave a full DMC conversion or a Gentle Arts Weeks Dye Works, Classic Color Works kind of conversion as well. But I opted for the DMC. So this is some of the colors right there. These are some of the ones I'm using. But then also, try to move this out of the way. These are some of the other ones, and I've used quite a few of these already. And this is a little bendy flip by Bags Plus, who happens to also be in Australia, who Michelle Bendy Stitches happens to be a rep for. So, and I thought it was really cute because it had these little birds on it. I thought it matched. So yeah, so that is one of the other things I worked on this May a little bit. Okay, so one of the next things that I worked on, which I actually don't have, it's a fully finished object, but it was actually a gift for a coworker, was something that I designed, and then, like I said, fully finished, to give away. It, a little bit of a backstory without giving too much away, just out of respect or privacy for my coworker. About the time that the lockdown started last year, we found out one of our coworkers had gone in. He was having some pain in his neck and like near his ear, and had gone in because he thought he had a really bad sinus infection or something like that. And his we never saw him, but apparently his whole side of his face and neck right around his ear had swollen up quite big, and he thought he had a really bad infection. Turns out he had more than that. He found out that he had a tumor, a massive tumor, and at the time he thought it was localized, but it was going to be a very invasive procedure. And after many doctor's visits and many consultations and some MRI scans, he found out that he actually had several tumors, not just there, but in other parts of his body. So at that point, his treatment became more critical and more, necessary. But this is all, he is finding out all of this in March and April of 2020, right when the pandemic pretty much hit the U.S. and we were all in lockdown. So, all we could do from afar was just keep him in our thoughts and hope that things worked out and hope that we get to see him again. And he ended up, bless him, doing, I'm going to say once a month, he called it his State of the Union email, basically to keep us, basically an email to everyone all at the same time, to keep us apprised of what his schedule was going to be like, not only doctor's visits, but treatments, and then as things progressed throughout all of that time, as things changed, as things were discovered, things were found out, the prognosis has changed, when his treatment kicked in, started to work, didn't work, changed it up, all of those things, he kind of would change that email, and it got longer and longer because he'd keep all the history on it, and just add in the new bits at the end, and highlight the things that were most, because he'd have some future looking forward kind of like, this is what's on the schedule, but he would always highlight the portion that had just happened, what the latest things were, the things that had changed, or the things that had happened. So anyway, so here we are a year later, more than a year later. He finished his treatments, and he's fine. I mean, he's doing really, really well. And so I wanted to do something for him, to let him know that I'd been thinking about him the whole time. But I wanted it to be good-natured, and I wanted to make sure that he was through the other side of it, basically. So having said all that, I will add, just as a little bit more backstory about him. He graduated from Oklahoma State University, who are the Cowboys, if anybody knows, or didn't know. And their colors, their primary school color is this almost neon orange, with black and white as kind of the secondary colors. So from time to time, he would come into the office wearing a vest or a jacket or a fleece or something that would just burn your retinas bright orange. We always give him a hard time. So I knew what I wanted to do for him, but I also knew him well enough to know that, it needed to be kind of his style. So I'm going to put a picture here. This is the finished, and it's just very, very simple. I didn't want anything fancy. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. He's not that kind of guy. I didn't want him to think I'd put just a whole lot of whatever into it. I just knew what I wanted it to say, and I knew I wanted to make sure I made him laugh with it. So, cancer sucks. We all think it sucks. But so does OU, which is Oklahoma University, which of course is like, think of any rivalry, whether it's football, soccer, European football, basketball, college football, college rivalry. That in Oklahoma, it's OSU and OU. So I thought I'd appreciate it. But I found the bright orange hoop. And then I found just a little inexpensive, I think we had another one right here. One of those just plastic black easels, like you'd put a picture frame or whatever on to put it on his desk. So, to show you just how spot on I was with the orange, here's another picture. So when I went in to put it on his desk, because that was the other thing. I knew I couldn't give it to him. I didn't know the next time I was going to see him, but I knew we would be back and forth in the office, and he would be up to the office to pick up files, check the mail, do whatever. So if you notice, right next to my bright orange little embroidery hoop, that's either a battery pack or a thumb drive. I didn't get a close enough look at it to see, but that's the orange. So he got it from somewhere. He probably got it from an alumni event or somebody, or he saw it at Office Depot and or wherever, and he had to have it because it was that orange color. So when I put that next to that little device, I knew it was like perfect. And as a matter of fact, it was like the next day, I didn't think he was going to be up to the office that soon. Like, I went in on a Tuesday, and like Wednesday, I got an email saying, "Hey, I got your gift. I had to ask around because I figured it was you, but I wasn't sure it was you." But he said, "Thanks, it's perfect." He said it made me laugh, and I said, "Okay, that's all I wanted. Great." So I don't know. I don't think I've been back to the office since to see whether or not if you left it there, if you took it home, maybe you took it home. I don't know. But anyway, so but just so you have another idea, that was, most of us have 2 monitors in our offices. That was, if he sat down, the left and right monitor, it was right below the right one. And then that little, I have to think was like a little backup storage device or whatever sitting next to it, and then that little orange thumb drive or battery pack or whatever that was sitting on the top. So yeah, it made my day when I saw that little orange device, because I thought, okay, he will see this because he knows what his desk should look like. He will see this sitting here. But the fact that it matched perfectly the orange little thing on his desk, I thought, okay, I did good, because it was the right color. So I was really happy about that. Okay, so there was one more cross-stitch project that I worked on, and it was another fully finished object. And this is in reference to the pillow finish that I mentioned before, my sparrows. This was another pillow finish. Now, I'm going to start this little segment with a little side story, because I wanted to kind of tell you where my mind was at the time. So, when I was stitching this project, it was another really small finish like my sparrows. It was another ornament piece, and I'll go over all that in a minute when I show it to you. But this whole deal with the side stitching, as much as I love, and like I mentioned before, I really do want to do more of these pillow finishes. I don't know what it is about these. If somebody can explain to me, because this is literally like, this is all this is. It's just a little pillow decoration. It doesn't serve any other purpose. But there's something really cute about these, right? I didn't like this. I'm not a good hand sewer. I mean, if the stitches were hidden, I know that there's like blanket stitch, ladder stitch. There are ways to hide your stitches, but I'm not that good at that. That's why I have an inexpensive sewing machine, so you don't have to see my hand stitches. And I never liked. I thought it was a clever idea, the splitting the fabric in the back and then covering it up. But I never liked the cover up thing, because I thought, to me, that was kind of obvious that that's what you were doing, was covering up but but to each his own, because obviously that a lot of people do that. And as a matter of fact, I have a hands-on design pattern that's what she does, is she gives you a little piece of wool to literally do that with. So in my search quest, mulling over of how to do another pillow finish for this next piece that I stitched this month, I was watching, and this actually wasn't, this was, I think it's Jordan's Fabrics was where I saw it. I subscribe to their YouTube channel, and she does some great, and they do quilting videos mostly. But she'll do like placemats and small mini quilts and stuff like that. Well, she had more recently a quilted like pillowcase finish. And if you know anything about making pillowcases, a real common method because what you're doing essentially is you're buying a pillow form that's been pre-stuffed and either zip closed or sewn closed or whatever it is. And sidebar, I had thought about a zipper finish. Like, I have some little like 3-inch zippers or whatever, but to me that didn't seem like a smart thing either. Anyway, but in watching her video, she had done basically a quilted pillowcase. So the front is quilted, but you're going to stuff it with a pillow form. So you either need to do like the equivalent of if you have shams on your bed, like the big decorative sham pillows on your bed, that are just meant to like toss over in the corner when you sleep at night. They have an envelope finish like this. So this is not a cross stitch, but this was, I have a bin of scrap. Every time I cut fabrics, I keep the little strips, because I always think I'll use them for something. Tabs, tabs on the end of a thing, or a wristlet, kind of thing, whatever. So these were all scraps from different projects. This happened to be, if you watched my, I think it was my last month, my fully finished object. This was the scrap left over from my Stitchonomy winter sal. The arrows and the flowers and the brown, I think were all left over for projects that I made for like co-workers over Christmas maybe. And then the owl, I actually happen to have, I made myself a project bag for my Owl Forest embroidery. This is what I keep them in. See, there's my 100 owls right there. So I made this owl project bag. But I had some scraps left over that made really cute squares. Well, this square happened to be about the size of the ornament that I was going to fully finish. And I wanted to figure out, watching her video, if I could take a square. Now keep in mind, this is a really big pillow. This is like 8 by 10. So this was kind of a good lesson in, the wider your strips are, the more quilting, strips you do. Like, this is kind of a log cabin, not really, because log cabin would overlap each corner, but the bigger this gets, because my square was 3.5 inches. I'd measured it, 3.5 either way, and that's about what this is too. And of course, this isn't perfectly square, because this is wider than it is longer, but I just wanted to use scraps to see if I could do this. In the tutorial, what she ended up doing was, she did her quilted pillow front, and then she did this envelope back, right? And the idea with the envelope back is, then all you do is you basically tuck in, you pull in your pillow form into there, and you just tuck it in. Well, that's not what I did. I literally, I don't know if you can see that, just stuffed it. Just like I did this one, and so, Franken stitched it closed. I did the same exact thing with this, and it worked beautifully. I mean, it really did. And what's nice is because it's still pretty squishy. Like, I mean, you could still kind of make it kind of however you want it, you know, shape-wise. And I knew there was going to be something, you know, with the puckering I wasn't going to like, but I didn't care. All I wanted to see was if I could make a pillow. And I could. So, I said all that to say, this was my next fully finished object. Or another fully finished object. So this is the Crystal Gazing Mandala by Ba Miao. And Darling Whimsy Designs. Ba Miao kind of posted a little thing on Instagram about how she wasn't getting as much love on Etsy anymore. And that's not necessarily what she meant, but that's kind of the gist. Was basically she didn't want to bow down to the, you know, having to pay to have your store featured, you know, all those kinds of things. She didn't want to jump through all the hoops. She just wanted to sell her designs on Etsy. So a bunch of us got together and bought several of her patterns. Darling Whimsy, she bought this particular pattern, this mandala pattern, and said, hey, guys, why don't we sell this? Why don't we all stitch? And there are some gorgeous, gorgeous finishes. So mine, and I've already forgotten what the threads were. This is, dang it. It was a variegated thread out of a Black Needle Society box. The square was another ornament piece from Fire Poppies. It was antique lace. Hold on, I'll tell you the count because I do have that right here. French lace, a 28 count French lace. And yeah, and I did this in a day. This was a SAF, what Michelle Bendy calls a start and finish. And this was my pillow finish. So this is a little bit of blue satin. And then somehow, I don't know how, but I had like this perfect freaking color fabric to go with it. So that's what I did. So no more Franken stitches. All the sides match up. It's great. And again, just stuffed with stuffing. No fancy pillows or anything like that inside. But that's my pillow finish. And I love this so much. And I love this envelope back. And I love how it turned out. And I think, y'all, if I do more pillow finishes, that's where I'm gonna go with them. Okay, so that's all my cross-stitching related projects that I worked on for the month of May. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I did want to show you, though, in anticipation of June, I'm always sewing project bags, and they're always from me, always just to try to get better at it. But I'll show you a couple that I did, that I worked on, and actually worked on these just this weekend, since it was a 3-day weekend, and like I said, I was gearing up for June, and I knew I wanted to have some project bags to match some projects I'm going to work on. So I did a couple of small ones, and then a couple of big ones. And I won't get into, what I'll do is I'll just show you the bag, or bags, and then when I talk about my plans, then you can see what they correspond with. So I did a couple of small ones. Sometimes, so most of my project bags are the vinyl front, but what ends up happening is the vinyl that they cut at Joann's for me, I usually end up having smaller pieces. So I wanted to try to do a couple of smaller bags, and these worked out okay. These, instead of being the big like 12 by 10, these are 9 by about 7.5. So they're not small, but they're smaller, and they certainly don't fit big projects. So you have to have like little smalls that you're working on or something like that. Well, this one is going to be a Disney project, like I said, that I'll talk about for my plans in June. But this fabric was just so cute. I couldn't help it. I got definitely more than I needed for a small project bag, but it's just absolutely adorable. So yeah, so I got that, or I did that one with the little paw prints and the green. And this is just a little charm that I found at Joann's or Michael's maybe as well. This is another small one that I did. Another one that I will talk about, plans for June. But it's just this real pretty, as a matter of fact, you can't even see the inside. This one you kind of can. It's also the paw print to match. And this one is just the same pinky purple fabric. And I had this really cute sparkly, pink sparkly zipper. But I realized when I sewed it, I kind of zipped it closed. But I put some, and again, this will make more sense later, like there's a mermaid and a whale tail and a narwhal and then a little unicorn like little charm on there. And then this was like this real pretty, I don't know if you can see the sparkly gold, but mermaid, like fish scale fabric. So I made those two little ones. And then, because my Alice in Wonderland Sal is going to keep going, I bought this. This is more of that pink from the little small bag, but I bought this Cheshire Cat fabric, which I absolutely love, and put the little kitty cat, little pink kitty cat, and sparkly kitty cat charm on there with the little purple bead. And then, and this may be giving away some of my June plans, but hopefully not, I found this really cool. I am going to take the pattern out of this one because otherwise you won't be able to see the bag. But this is Beatles, and it's Hey Jude. Says, don't make it bad, take a sad song and make it better, is in the little. And Joann's had two colors. They had this blue, and then they had like a red. And I like the blue better. So yeah, so it took me a while. I had to try to find a yellow, because there's the yellow in this bag was very, very distinctive. And that's about the best I could come up with. But I like it. I like the blue. Like I said, Joann's had a red, but I didn't particularly like the red as much. So I thought the blue was a better fit for what I wanted to do with it. So, okay. So with that, let me go over my checklist here a little bit. I think I've talked about everything. I'm going to, I know a lot of people do haul. I don't. I'm weird about the haul thing. I like showing things that I get. I absolutely love that. But the only thing about my haul is because I usually do these every 2 weeks, every other 2 weeks. So basically once a month I'm doing a cross stitch, and once a month I'm doing a knit. One of these episodes. I do so many things in between the last one that I can't, either I'm getting something in anticipation of a project I'm fixing to start. So more than likely anything that I purchase you're probably going to see later on somewhere. So I'd rather just save it for then. But you know, like fabric, perfect example, the Take Wing was on a Fortnite Fabrics subscription that I subscribed to. Well, I knew eventually I was going to use that fabric, and you would see it then. So I don't necessarily want to haul it out, 2 or 3 or 4 times necessarily if I don't have to. But sometimes there are things that you may not either see right away, or you may not see me use because it's not something that I present, for the masses. And this is one of those things. So I keep a journal. I'll kind of show you. I mean, I may have shown this once or twice before. I can't remember now. but I keep everything in it, and it's huge. This is my journal. So there are many the Moleskine books in here that I keep just my knitting stuff in. There's one that I keep just a calendar of day-to-day stuff, both personal and work related. And I journal in it. I draw things. I use a lot of stickers, which is kind of where I'm going with this. So this is a company, and you're not going to be able to see this because this is super, super tiny, and I got rid of, unfortunately, most of her packaging because it was just, it wasn't anything, it was packaged very well, but it wasn't anything, significant. But that's her little sticker right there. It's called Paper Minty, M-I-N-T-Y Studio. And I actually saw her featured in another floss tuber. Her name is Denise. Oh my gosh. Black Ribbon Studio. Her floss tube. She talked about getting some stuff from Paper Minty on Etsy. So that's kind of her little, her hello, how are you? Saying that she hoped that I would give her a review on Etsy and all those kinds of things and whatever. So Denise, so this, I'll start with this. This is a little thank you. These are all stickers. This is the little thank you freebie that she throws in there. I didn't order these. These actually just came. But, so Denise, she's a floss tuber, but she's kind of like me. She does quilting and crochet and knit and whatever. But she saw some of these and realized they were kind of directed at some of us here on YouTube. So this one is the floss tube sticker pack. I mean, that's what it says at the top. So it's got the little thread drops and the project bag and the little computer and the whatever. This is an embroidery one, and these colors are just so pretty. So again, some more of the little, and so these are all just stickers, like individual little stickers. So I use these in my journal. This is a knitting one, which is really cute, cozy knitting. It's got a little teapot and yarn and a knitted sock there. Very, very cute. And then the rest of these, so Denise only got, she got a few, but she got those that were related to her. But some of these I thought were rather stuff that I would use throughout my journal besides my crafting. So this one is called Camping on the Moon. And again, I just love those colors. But the backpack and the map and the compass, I just think it's absolutely fabulous. This one's called Midnight Desert. And these colors, guys, oh my gosh. But this is, we go to, or we have been to Big Bend National Park and the state park here in Texas several times. And we've gone to Arizona several times. So we do a lot of, outdoor camping and stuff. So those colors just, that made me think of some of our trips. So I'm hoping to use this in a future, travel portion of my journal. And then, not only because I'm a fan, but because we have Frogwarts coming up with Black Needle Society here in July. This is, she calls this one Hogwarts Adventure. So, the letter, and the glasses, just absolutely cute. So yeah, so this one I'll also use coming up. So this is one very small part of things that I've bought in the last month. But this is one of those things that I don't know that you'd ever get to see this. I don't think I would ever bring her stickers out at any other portion because I just don't. That part of what I do, part of my life, is not ever really on camera. Not that it couldn't be, but it's just not something that I I don't see enough of it being done that I think it's anything that anybody would have any interest in on here. If that changes, if you guys do, I don't mind showing you, I mean, what I do, how I keep track of stuff. I mean, I do some really quirky, weird things with my journal, but I don't mind sharing it if it's something you're interested in or whatever. I mean, I know Michelle Benny Stitchy, she keeps a stitching journal, but she literally just like scrapbooks her smalls or her pieces, finished pieces, into a journal. My journal is more like, you know, my entire life is in here, scheduling and planning and events and notes and projects and, you know, reminders and all of those things. Just kind of a brain dump to put it all somewhere so I don't have to try to retain it all in here or keep it all, you know, keep it all in my head. So yeah, so that's the little bit of haul I thought I'd share with you guys today. Okay, so finally, I thought I would go over my plans for the month of June. First thing I will start with is, if you guys haven't seen already, Black Needle Society's May/June box. Everybody, there's still some people waiting on their boxes, which is kind of frustrating, I know. But my unboxing is here on YouTube if you want to go and see it. But the theme of the June box was rainbow stitches, more specifically in anticipation of June being Pride Month. And so some of my plans for June involve basically stitching a rainbow of colors, being an ally, taking part in stitching projects that highlight and lift up those that are part of the LGBTQIA plus community. I hope I got them all. Sometimes I think I forget a letter or two. So with that, more generally speaking, my June plans aren't going to be just about Pride. I mean, I'm not making it a Pride Month or anything, but those are some of my plans. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I have a ton of whips. I counted it the other day, at least 4, if not 5, stitch-alongs that I previously got involved with before May that now I'm really far behind on because now it's about to be June. So with that, when I say that, I say the stitch-alongs in which there is a portion of a pattern released every couple of weeks, every week, every month. So I have my Made to Create I've got to finish, and I think the last part comes out this month, and then that's it. I've got my Homely Houseplants, which I think she's done. She's given us all the parts that I've got to finish. I've got my what are you doing, kiddo? Sorry, the cat came in the room. My Cozy Cafe Frosted Pumpkin Cozy Cafe, which they just released the 3rd part. That one still got a ways to go, but each one of those sections is kind of stitch intensive. And there's one more that I'm forgetting. I can't think of it right now. Those are the 3 big. Oh, Alice, my Owl Forest Alice. Just, you know, they just released the 3rd part and they're about to release the 4th part. Okay, so I've got all of those. Other than Made to Create and Homely Houseplants, the other ones are going to keep releasing a part and releasing a part and releasing a part. Okay. Well, in addition to that, I've got my Respect Your Mother whip. I've got my Peruvian Cats whip, which Anna Aguayo of Peruvian Flair is about to release a Lovebirds stitch along, which is just for the month of June. So not only have I got that, I've got both of those. Not only have I got the cats, I've got the birds now too, which I've signed up for. I've got my Chester's Place, which that is the first one kind of priority on my list that I want to get finished. I have done so much of that and I'd like to get that one done because I have pieces that I've purchased to finish that. So I really, really, really want to finish that. Okay. I've got my Game of Thrones stitch along. I've got my Take Wing, which the Take Wing, for the most part, I'm only going to stitch on the days in which Michelle does Quaker Zoom Sow. I've kind of pretty much decided that that's what I'm going to keep to that with. I've got all of my Owl Forest whips now that I've started that I haven't finished. I've got my Star Wars, my Mandalorian whip that I started actually, and I didn't even talk about that. So shoot. Okay, so I've got other things that I started in the month of May that I didn't even talk about. Oh my gosh. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to put pictures up here because I'm not going to get them out because this is taking forever. May 1st was Game of Thrones stitch along with Steno Stitches, who designed it, and Rolodex, and several other people. I gave myself May 1st, and this is how much I got done. Okay. May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, right? Star Wars. I told myself I was giving myself that day to get started on the Mandalorian pattern from Forbidden Fiber, which came in the treasure trove box from Leanne from Forbidden Fiber. So I gave myself May 4th off from Owl Forest to do that. Well, in addition to that, because we also had just gotten our April-May boxes from Stitch Life Mag, and that was, their theme was space themed, kind of around Star Wars and all that. I also started their pattern, Needs Some Space pattern. So here's my Mandalorian start, and here is my very paltry Need Some Space start. I didn't even finish this D, guys. This is ridiculous, but I didn't get it finished. Okay, so those two whips I've got. Okay, so all of those whips, I have decided I am going to use the Erin 2 Martini Stitcher method, sort of. I don't know if it's her method, but she's the one that everybody kind of attributes this to. I try to keep track of when I start projects, and Erin chooses to stitch on whips on their birthday. If she doesn't do like Mania or something else like that specifically with her whips, she always stitches her whips on their birthday, which is the day of the month that she started that project. So for instance, Game of Thrones started on the 1st. Need Some Space and Mandalorian started on the 4th. So those days, June the 1st, June the 4th, that's the days that I will stitch on those projects. All my Owl Forest projects, I've got the date that I started those. The ones that I didn't finish. Autumn Cats, 100 Owls, Evenings on a Farm. I will do all of those on the day that I started them in May. Now, Peruvian Cats, I think I know the day that I started it, so I'm going to try to stitch that on its birthday. Chester's Place, and all of the stitch-alongs, like Cozy Cafe and all of those. So Cozy Cafe and Made to Create are released on the same day, the 25th. So I will have to decide if I want to split that day up. In June, it's on a Friday, so it's a work day, so I won't be able to, if I don't have anything on the 26th, maybe that's what I'll do, a 25th and a 26th day or something like that. But all of the things that I've got to work on or to do, I'm going to try to designate a day, and try to make it the day that I started it, in the month that I started it, but some of them overlap. So I'll have to try to figure that out. Okay, but with all of my works in progress, I'm always going to have one that I'm going to make priority that I want to get finished. So the first one that I want to make priority is Chester's Place. So that one is going to be the one that any day that I don't have scheduled or set aside as a birthday for a whip, I will work on Chester's Place. As long as I feel like working on it. Okay. So, Chester's Place, when I get done with that, then something else will move to that place of honor or whatever as the next thing that I want to get done, and so on and so on and so on. So that is my plan for all of my works in progress that I have through the first, or starting with the 1st of June. However, though, I have plans for new starts, so we're going to talk about that next. So, I never thought I'd be one of those people, but here I am asking for forgiveness. Please forgive me. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. In addition to all of those other things that I mentioned, 6 more things that I know of right now on May 31st that are going to start in June. So yeah, actually 7. I mentioned one of them already. So let's start with the one I mentioned already, which is the Lovebird Sal. Anna Aguayo, a Peruvian flare. I think I've got a picture. I hope I can post it here. She is doing a 3-part stitch along. I think it's like basically the first 3 Saturdays in June. So the first release will be on the 5th. I think the second will be on the 12th, and then the third and final one will be on the 19th. So yeah, there's a new project. On the 5th also, and I'm hoping this is going to be a SAF, or I can finish it that weekend. Like it'll just be like a 1-2 punch kind of thing. Gosh help me, I don't remember their YouTube channel, so I'm probably going to have to put it down here somewhere. Please forgive me, girls. They're sisters, and actually it's the one, so the one, sister's the one actually that started the YouTube channel, and one of her other sisters has come in here lately. She was not really a cross stitcher. All of her other sisters were, but then she got back into it and she started a floss tube in the process. So I will put her name or her floss tube channel here. She and her sister are doing a Schools Out Biscornu Sal on the 5th. You can pick any Biscornu you want. I found one that is very colorful that I think I'm going to use, and I may actually, I need to go back and look at the pattern again and see. I think it represents all of the colors, but I want to make sure all of the colors are in there. But pick any Biscornu you want. They're just starting it on the 5th. Like I said, I kind of feel like it'll be a pretty quick stitch. Basically, if you don't know what a Biscornu is, it truly is. It's like 2 squares that are then stitched off center of each other to create like a little pillow or pin cushion, and there's like a button usually in the center. There are a ton of Biscornu patterns out there, so if you want to follow along, I think I'll put the hashtag here too, just so you guys kind of can see it, and follow along on Instagram or wherever if you want to. So I'm going to participate next. I think that'll be fun. I've never done a Biscornu before, but every time I see them I think, oh, I want to do that, oh, I want to do that. I just haven't ever found one that I really wanted to do, and I knew this would give me an opportunity to try it out, you know, stitch one and just see if I like it. So they're doing that. So that's 2. Hopefully though that second one's a pretty quick finish. I'm hoping the Lovebirds are too, but knowing myself, I'm probably not going to keep up with that. Okay, so that's 2. 3. If you follow Brenda and Laura, Brenda and the Serial Starter, they started last month before last. Every first weekend of the month is what they call a Blackbird weekend. And so they started Blackbird Weekend Sal. So, I didn't participate in May, only because I had enough going on already, and I knew they were going to keep doing it every first weekend of every month, and they picked their favorite Blackbird sampler, or Blackbird design. Some of them might be samplers, but yeah, Blackbird design pattern. And that's where, if you didn't figure it out already, my Beatles project bag comes in. So, I bought all 6 of the Magical Mystery Tour patterns. And I decided that I'm going to start with Strawberry Fields Forever. I've ordered most of the called for, which I think are classic. No. Don't get me lying. Hold on. I was going to say they might be Gentle Arts. Yeah, Gentle Arts. There's 2 Weeks Dye Works, but most of the rest are Gentle Arts. I've ordered them all except for 2. Because Gentle Arts, like a lot of them, are having a hard time with their production and getting materials and yada yada yada. So the 2 that I couldn't get my hands on, I mean, like, nobody. I checked, like, everybody and nobody's got them. And I'm not as familiar with the fancy flosses, so somebody tell me if truly, like, they are, like, not making certain colors, like certain colors maybe were limited edition or something. That's entirely possible too. So these 2 I pulled that were supposed to be the DMC conversions from the pattern. And then I pulled, this is, I think the thing's still in here. This is a 28 count beautiful beige linen that I think I got from like Fire Poppies. And that's what I'm going to do with it. And I think it'll be fine. I mean, I think it'll be just what I want it to be. The called for is Weeks Dye Works Confederate Gray. No thanks. Not interested. For lots of different reasons, but the main one being whatever. If you have to name your fabric that, yeah, I'm not stitching on that. But anyway, okay. So Blackbird weekend. That's the first weekend in May, or it was the first weekend in May, but it's also the first weekend in June. It's the first weekend of every month, for eternity. I mean, as long as people are stitching Blackbird designs, Blackbird May. So that, number 3. Okay. Number 4, Darling and Whimsy. This was supposed to be my next Quirky Quaker month. And she just said that she was releasing, I'm actually going to see if I can find the picture and put it here. She was releasing 3 new ones, and I gotta have them. So Quirky Quakers are going to be happening every month for the foreseeable future. My original plans, if you guys remember back in the beginning, I said, oh, she had 6 plus 1. So I do one every other month except for number 7, which I picked out specially to do in April. Well, between April and May, she said, hey, I got a ton more I'm going to release before the end of the year. And I was like, oh, goody. And I want them all. I want them all. But that also means, though, that I have to, rearrange my entire life. My life stitching around her release. So the 3 new ones are a mermaid, a Sasquatch, and a unicorn. And somebody came up with a clever, instead of Quirky Quaker Sal, either Cryptic Quaker Sal or Quaker Cryptid Sal. I can't remember which. But anyway, so that will be great for those. Those haven't been released yet. Well, I take that back. The paper charts have been released. She sent them, like, they're arriving at the LNSs. But she's going to put she's going to put them on Etsy any day now. So that's what I'm waiting for, because I'm just going to buy them directly from her from Etsy. So, that's neither here nor there. has nothing to do with my June. So I have, my original plans were, the 4 that I had left for the remainder of the year were the hedgehog, the pumpkin, the hedgehog, the puffin, the bat, and the reindeer. So the bat and the reindeer were supposed to be October and December. So that left me these 2. And so I think I've picked the hedgehog only because hedgehogs are kind of, everybody's stitching hedgehogs right now. But I could do either or. As a matter of fact, she just announced in May that it's been 1 year since her first release, which was the puffin. So I thought about that too. So one of those 2 will definitely be stitched up for the month of June. So that's 4. 5. This is where Pride Month comes in. So, back to my little sparkly, little pretty bag that I made, project bag that I made. All of this beautifulness is for, if you follow Michelle Bendy, the Transtastic Sal. This, and I'm going to put the picture up because it is a digital pattern that I purchased, is the Transtastic Unicorn. The designer is Dee's 20 Stitches, who borrowed the artwork or got permission from the artist, who is, and nobody is quite sure yet how to pronounce the name, but it's Kari, Kari, and then I think the last name is pronounced Nakken, Nakken. That's the artist of the design. These 20 Stitches got permission to make the pattern into a cross stitch pattern, or make the design into a cross stitch pattern, and the proceeds of the purchase, portion of the proceeds of the purchase, are going through several trans advocacy programs chosen by them. So I immediately said, yes, please. And I went through my stash, had to find something, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's totally sparkly. Yeah, you can kind of catch the sparkle there, can't you? This is a 14 count Aida opal. Now this is hand dyed by Rolanda, which she's on Etsy, I think is where I got the fabric from. But all of hers are kind of one of a kind dyes. And this is the needle minder that we got in our Rainbow Stitches box from Black Needle Society. So that's definitely the needle minder I'm using, which says stitch with all the colors down there at the bottom. But yeah, so sparkly blue fabric, and then all of the called for DMCs, and then this one gold etoile, which if you notice in the picture, there's a buckle on the unicorn's neck, and then the unicorn is stitched in Snow White diamant. Everybody's been having a conversation about the diamant. I think some people just want to stitch the unicorn in a different color, but some people have opinions about stitching with diamant, just in particular. I have yet to do it. I've stitched with the etoile, and I'm totally fine with that. But I'm going to see, I kind of looked around to see if I could find maybe a sulky or an overdye. I was looking through some of the stuff that I've purchased from like Forbidden Fiber, but nothing I found. So this diamant is the white, but it's got that opalescent sheen to it, and I don't know, unless somebody else knows, could comment about if there are overdyed flosses, fancy flosses out there that also, I mean, I know there's like, I'm sure there are like Silks for You and things like that I'm sure give you the same sparkle, luster, whatever. I just haven't found anything, or I don't know, honestly. God's honest truth, don't know enough about fancy flosses to know where to look. So I'd rather stick with the called for. But that was why I made this project bag. So it's nice and sparkly and nice, pretty. And my other plan is the charms, the mermaid and whatever. This is probably what my Quirky Quaker cryptids will go into when I get them as well. That was 5. 6 brings up my other little mini bag. There is going to be, starting the 7th, a stitch along that I think is only being held on Facebook, in a Facebook group of Disney dogs. I'll put the graphic here so you can kind of see. All we got was silhouettes, so I can make out a couple of those, but I can't make them all out. But that was why I kind of chose this cut of this fabric, because it had the 101 Dalmatians and it had the Lady and the Tramp on it. But that's also why I did the paw prints. So she released all the information on this stitch along, gosh, here really recently, like I want to say just this past week, like the 25th maybe or something, of May. And so I'm not really sure what to expect, and I'm not really sure, like some people, oh my gosh, some people have like these amazing fabrics somebody found, or maybe they dyed it themselves, I don't know, like Dalmatian print, you know, black splotchy fabric. I think a couple of people bought, if you're familiar with the Fabric Flare, yeah, I think that's right, Fabric Flare, fabric that had like paw prints on it. But I didn't want to go that route. I kind of wanted to stay neutral, but I wanted some kind of color. So, where did it go? Just as an example, this is how crazy this is going to get. This is all the colors for all the dogs. And that doesn't even include, like, I had to get some extra, some of them she recommends getting multiple colors. And of course black, 310 is a major component, but I have like a big ball of that, so I'm good for 310. But those are all of the other colors. So I had to find something kind of neutral, but I did want some color to my background. And I was trying to look, because, like, you know, the old Disney movie posters, that's what they did, was they had a colored background. But like I said, I wanted to find something kind of neutral. So this is a 16 count, Picture This Plus, called Sterling. And it's meant to be like a silver, yeah, it kind of looks silver there. But in real life, it actually has a little bit of green, just a hint of green to it. Almost kind of reminds me of like tarnish, like when her, I'll go you one better, just because I know this happens to me. When your skin turns from like cheap jewelry and it turns green, that's the kind of green. That's a terrible thing to say, but it's meant to be like a silvery. So anyway, so 16 count, that's what I'm using. I can't remember, but I know I know I've got enough fabric for it, but I can't remember if I have just enough fabric for it. I can't remember. But if that helps. That's an absolute mess, I know, but it gives you some idea. So, that's that. That is, like I said, the The first release date is the 7th of June. So everybody's kind of anticipating that, but that gives me a week to at least play catch up on maybe some other things before I start another stinking Sal. So that's 6. And finally, number 7. This is, I think, one of the most exciting things I'm so super happy about. That's starting new design, new pattern in a long time. So, if you're familiar with Jacob DeGraff here on YouTube, Modern Folk Embroidery, he is a fantastic designer of mostly samplers, Quaker style, but these huge pieces. And I love him to death. I love his channel. He is just a fascinating human being to me. He is so funny and so clever, and everybody refers to him as the king of floss tube, and rightfully so. Well, he got together with kind of one of my other favorite people, Caroline at Evertote, off the grid needle arts here on YouTube, who sells the limited Leo and Roxy floss, and he just asked and got together with Carrie, who dyes the floss over there at Leo and Roxy, if he could design a pattern with some exclusive colors. And when Caroline announced this, I was so excited, I flipped. So, the deal was, though, I told myself, I know Jacob's work. I know it's intricate. I know it's fantastic. I know it's awesome. I know they're huge. I know they're all of these things. And I told myself, okay, you either buy this knowing that you're probably never going to stitch it, but you just want it just to have it because it's Jacob and it's Leo and Roxy and it's, it's Modern Folk Embroidery and Leo and Roxy together and this is just going to be great. Or you commit. Well, a couple of things about this pattern before I show it to you. When Jacob announced that he was doing this, I was ecstatic because it was the first pattern charted that I knew of in Leo and Roxy. So I was super stoked because I was like, okay, I have to get in on that. I have to be one of these, early starter, early people in on this. But then when he showed the pattern and he described the meaning, and actually it's really kind of funny because when he first saw the quote, he described how he thought it meant one thing, and then when he realized what it was really saying, he realized it meant something completely kind of not opposite, but not the same as what he thought it meant, or what he thought it originally intended to mean. So anyway, I'm going everywhere with this. Okay, so he did the pattern, he did the quote, and what touched me more than anything was his husband is Indian. His family's from India, he's from India, and COVID has hit India so hard, like in a way that most other countries have not dealt with. And he said part of this collaboration, at least on his part, he couldn't speak for Leo and Roxy, but on his part, he wanted something to where he could contribute to the effort to release in India towards the COVID crisis. And I was just moved by that. I mean, I just was. And it only takes one episode of Jacob's YouTube for you to know that what kind of person he is, but to realize that that's what this was about. Okay, so at that point, I don't even know when, I can't remember what part of the release or the announcement of this pattern that was, but at that point, all the things about complicated, too hard, all the worry or concerns that I had about buying a pattern of his and maybe never stitching it and having bought it just to buy it went out the window when I realized what part of my purchase was going towards. So Caroline made the announcement of when she would be releasing the kit, essentially, and I say kit loosely, so basically it was the pattern and the floss is what it was. So here's the pattern. I am definitely going to stitch it. She has planned, or has, I say announced loosely, I think this is a definite start date, but they have planned to start a SAL for this pattern called Rule of Life, starting, is that right? Okay, I think I've got the 18th on here. I think that's right. The 18th is a Friday, but I think that's correct. Sorry, I'm looking at the calendar up there. So that's the pattern. Fabric, I think he gave a suggested fabric, but I was like, I was probably, knowing him, it's probably a really high count woman. I'm not doing that. I want to enjoy this. Here are the fabrics. And you have enough. She gives you enough that you are able to stitch it. This is caramel. These are Plum Shadow. Sorry guys, I'm holding it too close. Plum Shadow. And there's purple in that. You can't, this lighting is horrible. And all the rest of this is Vampish. And it's like this murky black. It's purple, but it is so deep dark black. So, instead of picking some high count linen, like I said, which is probably what he suggests. Oh, sorry. I'm picking at something that I put on purpose. Okay, we're going to have a Jennifer moment here. When I put this fabric on this Q-snap, I was like, okay, it just barely fits. I need to find this center, so I know center start, so I know where the center is, so I can line it. Because again, I think this is a piece of fabric that just works. But I need, once I stretch this, I'm not going to be able to see the center crease anymore. So I need to, so I had stitched just the center stitch on this fabric. Well, so you can barely see it. That's it right there. And I'm sitting here as I'm talking to you and I'm like picking at it like, God, there's like something on this fabric. That is about as good as it's going to get in the perfect description of how goofy I am. Because I told myself when I stitched that, I was like, you know, the next time you pull this out, I hope, one, that you can see that, but you're probably going to sit there and pick at that and think that's a piece of an ord or a piece of lint or something. And what did I do? I sat here talking to you, picking at it like it was stuck on that. Okay. So this is my fabric. There's my floss. This is a 16 count. Is that right? Yeah, 16 count. Picture this plus. This is ancient. So a lot of people talk about buying ancient, but when they buy it or when they show it, They usually don't have the Aida. They have like the linen or the, a higher count. And it gets really like splotchy and murky. And it's really kind of interesting. To me, the Aida looks really, really, really good because it's just enough gray and just enough gold. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to use. Whatever he stitched it on, or sorry, he didn't stitch it. Ellen Reed of Maximum Cross Stitch Power Hour stitched the model, and Caroline's actually got it now because she was showing it off the other day, and it was just, I sat there in like awe. I almost wanted to just pause the TV and just admire it. It was so gorgeous. But yeah, she's got it now, so she's going to keep it with her until the stitch along's over, and then I think she's going to send it back to Ellen. But whatever the fabric was that he picked, this to me looked pretty good as far as not a replication of it, but just a good a good neutral color that I think kind of goes with it. So that, folks, is 7. Those are the 7 additional things that I want to start in June, in addition to all the other plans, all the other whips, all the other things. And and you want a number 8? So Frogwarts, we're supposed to get our Frogwarts boxes, year 2 boxes, sometime in June, because the retreat's in July. I also want to start the year 1. And another project bag I stitched up for myself specifically for this. I think I may change the fabric. I've got, back when I first kind of kitted this up, I was just kind of looking for a piece of fabric that I thought, because there are actually multiples of these band samplers, and I was thinking I was going to stitch them all together. But I'm kind of thinking now I may go back through my fabric stash and see if I see something that I might just want to stitch this one on. But yeah, I want to start it before the retreat starts for year 2. I don't know anything about the retreat, but I know that there are things that they do, like events that might require me having started year 1. Okay, so technically that's 8. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are even more projects than that I'm missing. So I'm going to stop it here. I've talked for way too long. I have too many things going on. I got to clean up all this mess, and I don't even know what time it is anymore. It's late. Time to go to bed. I'm tired and I'm kind of antsy. But thank you for sticking around. I didn't intend for this to go on for forever, but apparently it did. But I appreciate you, appreciate all of you for stopping by, watching, seeing how my May went. It was interesting. It was fun. But yeah, it was interesting. So, with that, I will say, I hope your May went well. I hope you are in a good place right now. And if you're not, I hope things improve for you. Yeah, I hope the world is treating you well. Now that everything's starting to open back up, I hope you get to finally be with the ones you want to be with in person, safely. And I hope that you have good things planned for June. I know I do. Sort of. Kind of. I do. I have good things planned for June, so I hope you do too. enjoy your stitching, stay safe, be kind, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks with some knitting. So take care.